So what they also said, and I shared the information straight from Morgan Stanley and the advisor there, is there's many banks to choose from. You need to spread that money out over multiple banks. They purchase or put the money in those CDs with those banks. So all of it is FDIC insured, and they will get the best rate of return. Right now, that rate of return is 3.15 on 2-year term, 2%, 2.9 on 1, and 2.6 on 6.
Let me rephrase. You said this came from the finance committee?
No,
Okay.
this information came from the advisors saying that your money's sitting there and it's earning this interest rate because inflation is hitting us. There's one positive side to this, right? We all have to pay more for everything we spend day in and day out, unfortunately. But because of that, interest rates on these financial vehicles, CDs and money markets, have gone up. So we can earn more. If we want to get the best return, it's time, according to the advisors, to move our money out of a low interest money market, only getting us 0.04 or 0.05, to something that'll get us more.
To be honest, I'm trying to think about how I might form a motion.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sounds good.
Okay, thanks. I'm going to move on to open forum. I just hang on just one second. First of all, I want to thank everybody for their patience and the good. This organization and this open forum is done in a way that's just really beneficial to the board. It's really beneficial, I think, to everybody here. I sit on another board where open forum, basically public comment, is done at the beginning of the meeting, before all the items are discussed. Just hope everybody appreciates this. The other thing is I did take the time just now, I apologize for not paying attention during that last part. I did take it to look up point of order. And point of order occurs when someone draws attention to a rules violation in the meeting of a deliberate assembly. So the point of order is used to say you didn't take a vote properly. That's what Robert's Rules of Order, the definition of point of order is. So in the future, unless there's a point of order that's going to object to some kind of rule that we're not following it, I'm not going to recognize it. All right, so we're going to move on to open forum. Let me see. I saw Tom's hand first. When you get ready, it's just.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. I just want to let the board know and to reiterate the report that was given from Sharon about the art committee. One of the things that we did learn also to enhance what she had said is from tax flow, you have to fill out applications for some of the work to be done. They're not like regular contractors. They don't give you bids right away or whatever. There is application and paperwork that needs to be done, and you have to qualify for some of that. So as seniors, they look at it a lot differently. And Capslow tries to assist as many people as possible. So it is an alternative for people if you do need stuff to look into it. I know for a fact that John attended the meeting through his phone, and he's knowledgeable on some of the stuff too. So I'm sure he could reiterate a little bit of this too. The one thing that I wanted to talk about right now real quick, I know I only have a couple minutes, is about the repair on the north wall. This is coming from an architectural perspective on my question to the board and management. If the north wall corner needs to be repaired, to think about and consider, is it the passion vines that are growing next to that wall an issue? That they do have a lot of bad root systems really close to that wall. There are also a lot of trees up in that area that cause root problems. Also, is there anything underneath in that section that has anything to do with drainage from the pool? Is there any sewer lines involved in there? I have some maps that I could take a look at architecturally, but I'd like to have the board consider before they vote to make sure that all the bases are touched before we start digging up there. And also, I know for a fact there is a drainage problem up there. I have seen standing water running down to that corner. You can actually walk up there if a lot of the people here take their dogs up there to use that once in a while, you'll see where there's erosions on some of it. So it is an issue, not only for the safety of the street, but the safety of the homeowner behind it, because that'll all start to erode eventually. So I would like to have them consider also, is it an HCD state issue? Do we need, if we're requiring certain walls to be repaired up on the north end for homeowners up there, we need architectural reports. Are we going to get that from a contractor? Or do we need to meet HCD state requirements? I think it ought to be looked into a little bit further. And the drainage, but just to make sure that some of these things are considered by the board before you go ahead and vote, regardless if you have bids or not. Maybe it might be a good idea to get more bids. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Joe Gledhill of 196. I'd like a clarification on the entrance structure. I know the board is considering taking out loans to help pay for it, and how is that going to affect our HOA and individually? And are you going to share the bids with us when you do get them?
I would like to speak.
Yeah, sure. Okay, John, you want to take a quick shot at the thing off of?
I can try. That was mentioned prior, and yes. So answer to your question, yes. Obviously, we with 1.7, maybe by the end of the year, $2 million in reserves, can we fund a project that is estimated to maybe be between $4 million and $6 million? We would have to take out a loan. All that is being investigated. That's why we're trying to determine with the full bid process, what is the actual price tag? And then also in working, as you heard in the finance committee, working with multiple banks to try to find out who can offer us assistance in those areas, what the rates might be, how much they're willing to put at risk or loan us. It may mean that we have to go out to multiple banks. So yes, we need to know what the price tag is. We need to understand what the funding options would be. And then once we get those bids back, not only the bids from the contractors, but any proposals we've received from any financial institutions, all that would be shared with the homeowners. The board cannot vote to move forward on anything, whether that be the bid construction or the loans, without it going out to a vote of the entire membership. So all that will be received, reviewed, shared. There will be multiple meetings, of which Ashley Vance, our bid consultant, and potentially the contractors would participate in that. Okay?
So you know
Oh, this
you won't know how much
this is exactly what I.
it will go up.
Yeah, so we need to know the numbers, but the other thing I think we need to just remember too, and John didn't mention this, we will continue to put money into the reserve. So that's $77,000 a quarter. So let's just not lose sight of that.
Pardon me, right?
Yeah, sure.
I've got a couple of questions. One, was there ever an analysis done, a financial analysis done before we ever started this? Because anytime you do a project, you take into consideration what is the available income. You look at that and you look at it seriously. Then you look at how many dollars you're going to spend. Then you're going to look at the time you're doing it and what the availability of funds is. Is it a first? Is it a second? When you go to these banks, what are they going to loan on? Is it going to be a second? I mean, everybody owns their home in here. Are they going to be a second, maybe a third? Because then you get into hard money. Now, you could have multiple banks loaning on multiple different scales. When I did a project, I did an analysis before I ever started that project.
to find out if it was feasible. If we get to $6 million, let's do the math. You have any idea what it's gonna cost every single one of these people in here? The math alone? To be able to fund that out of our dues, if it gets over $4 to $5 million, we are not gonna be able to fund it out of our dues. And that's a fact. I know because I've done the math. So before we start down this path, and I know we've probably spent more than $100,000 already on this project. Where is the feasibility, or at least doing the math? Because the math can be done. This is about math. And what we're looking at, and how many years are we looking at to pay this off? If you're gonna get hard money, and you may get to that point, those are short-term loans, they're not long-term loans. So I think we need really, and if we're going to look at that, I've done this before. None of you have ever done this.
I have.
You haven't. You haven't done, what is the biggest project you've ever done, John?
Pardon me?
What is the biggest project you've ever done?
In the neighborhood of $4 to $5 million.
What was it doing? What were you doing?
Infrastructure for an HOA in Southern California.
You were what?
An HOA in Southern California.
You were doing an HOA.
I did not do the construction, but I was on the board when this project was
Okay,
reviewed.
that means you didn't have the liability. You were just administrating things. I've done the actual work. I've actually taken that loan out for $3.5 million. I know what it's like. I know what the pressure is like. And it was running between 14 and 16% interest when I was doing it.
Okay.
So I know what can happen. And this is going to be an adjustable loan. If it doesn't go hard money, it's going to be an adjustable.
I just, and I appreciate that this is a money thing, okay? This is all.
Damn right, it's a money thing. It's all of our money.
I'm just. Okay.
And not to look at this in advance is irresponsible.
Blake, I'm gonna ask you to take your
We
seat.
have.
We all heard what you said. I appreciate it.
I'm standing.
That's fine. Now someone else makes this speak.
All right.
Okay, this is also a quality of life, okay? So we all live here. We all have toilets to flush. We all have water that we need. We all need gas and we all need electricity. So there's a lot of things that need to be considered when we look at this, not just the dollar amount.
Thanks, Mark. Okay, Robert Bailey in 110. So it's been 3 years since I've been here. And I've been saving it all up to let it out today. So I had some email exchanges with the board and I got some answers and some unanswered questions. And so I've got a few things here that I wrote down. First of all, I'm going to start off and say, I know that Beverly, the board, and management are sincerely trying to do their best and save money for this place. But like in the past, when I was on the board, we had a lot of disagreements. And I'm not agreeing with some of the things that are being done, and I know people are going to hate me for it. And I'm going to say also, this is business. It's not personal. So one thing that bothers me is that we did not get bids for the Ashley Vance contract award. There's no downside to getting those bids, okay? And we don't know if, maybe Ashley Vance would have been the best bid, but by not getting 2 other bids, we're doing a disservice to the association. San Luis Obispo is just a hot spot of engineering firms because of Cal Poly. So there's just no shortage of being able to get those. And I sent an email with 5 firms before the vote was made, and I never got an answer for that. So, and then now, because I'm glad I have this thing from the meeting here. And it's talking about John's contract being renewed. And they said, and I did request a copy of it last week, but I never got it. There's it says there's no change in the rate or fee. However, it talks about he's going to become a liaison for the construction management. And he'll be paid for it. Now, I ran into one of the directors the other day, or she ran into me, and I said, you know, we're paying for this. And she said, oh, no, it's coming out of our reserves. And said, that's still paying for it, okay? But John makes $65 an hour. So what I was thinking is, right now, the contract wasn't changed. John gets paid to attend committee meetings, $65 an hour. And maybe in the past, there was a sort of a legitimate reason to do it. It originally started with the finance committee. I had mentioned that committee membership is voluntary and members shall not be compensated for their services. Yeah, I did 5 minutes, right? 5, yeah. Okay, so it's actually in our bylaws that committee groups don't get paid. So, yeah, well, I'm reclaiming my time. So that's something, you know, that it's just like it's overkill to have a person facilitating the meetings when we have chairs on. That could be a balance, you know. If John's going to take on this new little role, he could kind of give up that role and it would balance out, so we won't be paying more money, because we will be paying more money if the contract stays as it is, and then he's being paid for the infrastructure stuff. So, and then there was something else, and I'm sorry to, let's say, sort of be negative here. And that is, okay, I sent an email asking, what are the hours, the office hours here in the Chumash? You know, what are the hours of management? And I never got a response. On our door, it says Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it's 3 hours each day. We spent over $100,000 a year last year for management. The year before that was $96,000. I have a list of HOAs, resident-owned HOAs in this area. All of them are open between 8 and 4, 9 and 5, Monday through Friday. They have regular office hours. In fact, it was never even disturbed during COVID. So that, I don't know why we don't have that here, but it should be done. And I wish there's so much more I would like to talk about. Yeah, and if anybody wants to email me, all the people on the board have, and I'll be happy to talk about more stuff.
Thanks. If I can, I'm going to try to address just one thing. If I can, John. And let me know if I have this right. When we talked to John about his contract, what he said is he wanted to be the liaison. He took X amount off of his contract, the existing amount, and said, this is what it's going to cost me to be the liaison, and didn't increase the rest of the contract. So I just want to clarify that. John's fee, what we're going to pay John during this whole thing is not going up. He's just reallocating part, did I get that right? Yeah, reallocating part of his existing contract so that he could become a liaison. He's taking less money over here. He's using that same money to become the liaison. Okay?
Over here.
I memorized it, so.
You should know that. I would know. But that's kind of bugged me. Because like when we did the point of order thing, man, you were bent on like the trustee and stuff of the school and the federal school so long, and you go to a point of order. I found that shocking.
Thank you. Let me see.
I mean, that's true.
Vicki Ann Richardson, owner of 164. And I also was concerned about the question about point of order. My understanding is the board says something as a fact. Maybe it says something's going to cost $100,000. And we know for a fact, in my paperwork, I know it's only $10,000. They made a mistake. When you say point of order, you can, in my understanding, legally excuse me, point of order, can you change that statement? That's gonna be put into those amounts and be written as a secretary, and it's gonna be drafted, and then the minutes are gonna go as being correct. So my idea of point of order is always if something is incorrect, to correct it. And that's why my husband was doing a point of order, not just a rule. Well, a rule is you also want to be above board and say the honest thing and the correct thing. So I'd like to know about that more legally, more clarification, because I think we're coming off some of the homeowners who have an important thing just to say when they want to correct, and we'll talk to it later when it's at the time it should be addressed if it's incorrect statement.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't be doing.
Look into it, just ask.
I just want to, so I took the time to look this up. Robert's Rules of Order. A point of order may be raised if the rules appear to be broken. That's it. Not a dollar amount, not a factual
Well, if
amount.
a dollar amount is correct, then that is something.
It's not a rule violation.
It's not.
Order is a rule violation, period.
Excuse me.
Oh, okay. You actually do have some. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
The other thing is, I totally trust Blaine and what he says. He knows what he's talking about. He's very experienced in things, and he has a concern for the money in the park. And it is a money thing. And I've always been, again, concerned about the infrastructure, the people on the infrastructure, and not being more transparent. And so we can't be transparent because we don't know. Well, there got to be some analyzing about it. And also all about the infrastructure thing, all of that came up a long time ago when we had a previous manager who's no longer here because he is no longer allowed to come and work for us. So I'm just letting you know a lot of information he passed on was information that he had misinformation for. So that's why we want to look into infrastructure. People know what they're doing, ask people know what they're doing, and have correct information. Thank you.
Thanks, Deb.
Carolyn Blackman, number 73. So to the board, I have mentioned at least 3 times that I wanted to show you a way to get up to 5 more parking spaces. Since we're talking about the spaces that are involved in the pink wall, I'm never going to forgive you unless you guys at least send one of you to go with me and walk and let me show you what I can see about how we can increase the number of parking spaces before you agree to the pink wall. Small signals. The increase in garbage is going to be a big shock to a lot of people, and also the infrastructure. I would really like for someone on the board or management to write about that in the next couple of smoke signals so people are warned, especially absentee landlords. And one about the garbage, one about the infrastructure. And then lastly, I want to say something about loans to all of you. In the 1990s, I was involved in an HOA. We didn't take out a loan. Each one of us had to go to the bank. I paid $25,000. We fixed all of the problems. And 4 years later, I sold my unit for $250,000 more than what I paid for. Don't be so afraid of loans. They're much more fair because when we die and our children sell the house, the loan is gone. And the loan is something that we pay over a period of time. It's the most fair and least problematic way to get money so that we fix our problems so that the value of our homes goes way up.
Thank you. Susan Shaver, Chair of the Social Club. So this is a whole new topic. We're going to have a mind change in this. I just wanted to give you some information on a few things that are coming up that we're trying that are new. And for you to be prepared to participate in the animations. Laws. Okay,
Susan, can you direct your comments on the board, please?
okay.
Sorry.
Thank you, sorry. Okay, so, there's an group that's, going to be, investigated to see about forming that. And, Merle is going to be leading that. I think it's going to be real interesting and a lot of fun. So, for the guys. We're going to have an ice cream social when we meet the new board. So everybody likes the ice cream social. So I imagine we'll come out to participate in that. And we have a Medicare speaker coming in October. I just want you to know now so that you can anticipate that before making other Medicare changes. This will have to do with the 2023 information on Medicare benefits and programs. And this is someone who is they're not selling anything there with Medicare. And we're going to have a holiday bazaar the first part of November. And you'll be getting some information about that. But if you're an artist or a craftsperson and you want to participate in it, now's a good time to get started with things for that. So those are just some upcoming things that I want you to look out for information on following. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, anybody else? I'm gonna go back here first.
Thank you. Pete Guernsey, number 38. John, I got a question for you.
Sure.
In this, I guess it's the last meeting, I guess I wasn't here, I wasn't listening. There was a $500,000 CD and you cashed it in early, and the reason is, why was it less? And it was because it was a penalty.
Which one was it? I'm sorry, Pete.
I'll read it. Or $500,000 at maternity plus interest is currently only $497.5, and that's losing money. John reported, just I should probably CDs cashed out in advance of maturity are penalized. Why did we cash it out early?
We're not. What was explained at the last meeting, if I can everybody hear me okay? My voice carry all right? Is that a member had questioned, why is our balance that was moved to Wells Fargo Advisors, why did it go down? We moved over 500 and it was represented on the financials as below 500. If you look at it now, it shows it's 500,000 plus, right? Because, and as I mentioned at that meeting, it was an accounting issue with Mosaic, our bookkeeping service. When you get a statement, many of us have CDs, right? You look at your statement, it tells you what is the value today if you were to cash in that CD today before it matures. And our bookkeeping service was using that as the value on our financial reports. We have not cashed any CDs out early. And I had them, I brought that to their attention. They double checked with our CPA. They should be representing the CDs that we have at the value, the maturity value, unless we take it early. And then it would show up, that penalty would show up on a unrealized loss or an unrealized gain. That's how it should have been represented. You see now they've corrected that, and the value of per our bank statement from Wells Fargo Advisor, it shows 500,000 plus.
Okay, thanks. It was just misleading.
You bet. Thanks, Pete.
Another quick question. I don't think this is going to happen, but what happens?
Wow.
Sorry.
Thanks, Pete.
What happens if we don't have a quorum on the board of directors? So
At the August 31st meeting, is that what you're asking for the board of directors? There's two things, right? So we can't have a counting of the ballots. If we have not received a quorum, we can't count the ballots. So you're right, you're not really conducting an election. Therefore, the candidates that are running are not elected at that point. There are options available to the board. Anytime you have open seats, there's a number of things per state law that you can do, whether that's existing board of directors stay on board until another election is conducted, whether it be appoint. Those are options that are available to the board. But as our inspector of elections stated, and I put that in the note to the board, with 14 votes received over the last 5 days, in the inspector of elections opinion, we will have no problem hitting our 118. We should be able to obtain that quorum.
Okay, thanks. And that's what I expected. I just want to know what
Yeah.
happens here.
You bet, you bet.
So the infrastructure vote, when we finally get the bid and we're able to go out to all the members, is there is that a majority vote, 50% plus one?
I have to confirm that for sure,
You don't know?
but pardon me?
You don't know?
The 50% plus one would be on that larger amount. As far as there's interpretation by our legal counsel as to whether it requires a majority, right? Or a simple majority, which would be the 50% plus one, the same 118 affirmative votes. If it requires a 3/4 or a majority, super majority, then it would require 120, I think, is the quorum, and then the super majority above that.
So do you know now? Like
I
now today?
I
Do you
have
know how
had-
many votes it's gonna take?
As for the infrastructure,
Yeah.
I am waiting for legal counsel to say for sure. There's a difference of opinion between two members, legal members at our law firm. So I can't say, Pete, I can't say this lawyer's wrong or that lawyer's wrong. That's not me. Legal counsel has to give us that advice.
Okay.
Okay?
And now the garbage thing.
Uh-huh.
So we know it's going up 32.5%. And we know the date.
It already did.
Right, so it already has. So when they change over on January 1st, you guys are gonna already know how much extra it's cost.
Right,
Because you know what it was before.
right.
So you should be able to tell us how much you're gonna reduce our monthly $250 dues is. You should be able to tell us that today.
No, your question, let me rephrase your question. What I heard you say is you should be able to tell me how much our regular assessment will go down
Yes,
come January 1.
yeah,
No. The reason is, Pete, and I mentioned it the last meeting that you were present, right? We don't know. The finance committee, one of our finance committee members was here earlier. The finance committee analyzes every one of our expenses, right? And usually about the September timeframe, we get notices from SoCal Gas, PG&E, San Luis Water, as well as the trash company. Trash decided to do it mid-year. But we get those notices so that the finance committee can take those anticipated increases in other areas into account. So what is it going to be? We don't know, because we don't know how much the other expenses will go up. Many of our operating expenses will stay static, right? They're pretty steady year over year. You can look at budgets and annual packets you guys have gotten for the last 4 years. Though most of those stay pretty steady. But the utilities especially are the ones that go up and down, and we won't know. I can tell you that, and you can probably do the math, Pete. You look at that $4,800 a month that it's gone up to now, instead of 30 something, 3,100 before. How much of that it's gone up? What is 1/235th of that? You got to take out the HOA. We only have 9 cans that are us. Everything else is homeowner cans. So you can do the math on that. It is about, and those of you that have a larger can and have been getting billed the $7, which went up to $9 recently when they hit us with that increase. That's the difference between a 19-gallon can, which is included in the regular assessments, and the 32-gallon can, which some people opt to have. That's $9 difference. It's about $23, $24 for a 32-gallon can, and it's gone up to about $18 for a 19-gallon can. Here's the other nice thing, Pete. If you looked at the discussion we had 2 board meetings ago, what is the delta? the rate that an individual homeowner pays when we cut over on January 1 for each of those individual cans is actually lower than we as an HOA would have to pay because we're a commercial entity. So for rough estimate, look at somewhere about $18 per 19-gallon can, which the majority of our homeowners have, would shift from HOA responsibility to the homeowner's responsibility. So it should reduce the trash line item that all of us have to pay out of our regular assessments by about that $18, $19 a can.
Thanks. I'm willing. to-
Long answer, but that's
Anybody in
true.
here, $100 that our dues will not go down.
It won't be because of the trash.
I just want everybody to know, when the city had this on their agenda to raise the cost of picking up garbage, there are only 2 people in the audience. Right? Some guy, I guess, kind of how, and John. John's the only other person that fighting for us and everybody. And John also, just so you know, the HOA was going to be filled with the commercial rate. It was going to be huge. Because John worked with the city, we're going to be able to do it at each of them. It will be less than what it would have been. So some good stuff happening as well. All right, we're going to go down to the voting part. Somebody else? Oh,
Before I start, I'd like to, if anybody would like to, yes, duplicate check that was printed by our own office. There's some more cases.
this, Bill, maybe we should just, I'm going to include this in the time. Okay. Okay. Doesn't seem like anybody wants it.
Yeah. Now. Now, this check statement was given to me by the former secretary. This was given to me by the former secretary of the board. And
You need to talk to the board. That's what open forum is for you to address the board.
very good, thank you. Anyway, it was given to me by the secretary of this board because she knew something was wrong. And she asked in 2016, we went from having the board pay all of our water to each one of us paying our own water. So that meant roughly about $160,000 extra income. And that was supposedly, the majority of that was to go into the reserve fund. And she was worried that it wasn't. So she asked to see the statements for the reserve fund. She refused. And she asked several people to help her get it, and she couldn't get it. And the reason that she couldn't get it was because the board didn't want anybody to see it. We had a group of myself, former president, and former directors and former secretary, and we had a mediation to see if we could get this. And you were part of the mediation, and so was Kathy. And we made a tape recording of that mediation, and in it you say to the answer, Robert asked you, are you saying that you're not going to give it the statement so we can give it to our CPA? We were going to give it to our CPA, and he was going to record it do it himself, and we were gonna pay for it, it wouldn't cost anything, and it'd be very nice for the board to find out if they actually were losing money. But we never got it, and it's a very hostile mediation in that we finally get discouraged and went to, and you came with the agreement all typed up already and already signed by yourself. And you said, sign this, and I wouldn't sign it, and you wanted it back, and I said, no, you can't have it back. But anyway, the reason this statement was shown to the police was because to show them what a terrible mess our bookkeeping was in. The bookkeeping is really bad. The bookkeeping was done on the cash tax basis, not the accrual basis. Accrual basis is what's mandated by state law. And that's what the former director used all the time. He also, we turned in our income tax, that way the income people are wondering if anybody's made some extra money. They'll find out. So anyway, I gave this to the police so they can see how bad it was. This was not our main argument that we've lost over $80,000 in our reserve fund. In the reserve fund, we had $947,000 to start with. Okay, about 9 days later, the board, without any kind of preliminary approval, put in $76,000 out of the operating room into the total reserve fund. That made in the reserve fund with the statements and insured by the FDIC, that made it $1,027,000. Okay, there was nothing approved for payment in that whole year of 2017. At the end of the year, we, pardon me, you're interrupting my thought.
I know.
And it's hard in your paper. And this is very important. This is $80,000 for home gift for money that you're doing. You never did anything about this. This was in the files for over 5 years and no one even mentioned it. And we showed it to the people. We showed it to the people at Meeting Rabobank, and they said they would recommend that this be shown as soon as possible to their fraud fund.
Okay.
And their fraud fund.
Okay, so we're gonna continue with the regular meeting.
We are interested in finding out.
I'll take a recess.
Yeah, okay. I think the best thing for us all to do is take that recess I talked about. So we're gonna take a 3-minute recess. Okay, everybody, thank you very much. We're gonna come back into order. We're gonna go down to, there was nothing on the consent, so we don't need to look at that. So we're gonna vote on items on the agenda. So the first thing is, there's nothing to vote on with the garbage contract.
Right.
The review of the proposal on the masonry.
Right.
Is there any further discussion?
No,
Okay, I have some further discussion.
okay.
I would really like us to propose that, postpone this vote. I don't think I have enough information. I think some alternatives have been brought up. And I just think, I just don't feel ready to vote. Okay. so
All right,
we're just-
I'm in disagreement. I would be ready, but you guys would move, so.
Okay, thanks.
Additional information from your comments before, so looking at interlocking block.
Yeah.
As an option. And
Oh,
additional bids, right?
I think that's what, I know for me, it's the interlocking block. Oh, and John, if you could also look at the Helsing report. And just give us a time frame for how long it lasts, because $11,000 spread over 40 years is not that much money. Spread over 10 years, then I got it right. Okay, thanks. Okay, and
Just for my notes,
yeah,
interlocking blocks, how long it lasts,
Yep.
and what else?
What was the third thing, John? There was,
Only the two.
Only those two.
Well, you
No.
just asked Helsing,
right,
getting detail on length of expected useful life.
Like,
useful life.
well, how long it lasts? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right, great, thanks. Let's see.
So I want to just write the two, one here.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay. Well, we can agree not to vote. Can't we? I mean, if there's no motion, then we don't have to vote. So are you making a motion?
There's no point in me making a motion
Okay,
if I
so
heard
then-
you people say that they're not gonna support.
So there's no, so just, it dies right now for lack of a vote.
Okay,
Thank you.
that's not true, but
Well, then,
whatever, I'm not going to.
okay, all right. I think we're gonna need a parliamentarian. New business, so the review of the quarterly reserves. Do we have a motion on that?
Well, we do this in one fell swoop or we do it in two swoops.
I would accept a motion for both.
All right, then I will move that we move the $77,852.50 be moved into reserve
Oh, I'm sorry.
and that,
Yeah, I think that needs to be separate from the reserve funds.
and I was going down here to moving reserve into operating
Yes, thank you.
as the second part of this motion.
Yes, please.
$58,594.29 will be moved into operating from reserves as part of the motion.
All right, all those in favor?
Yeah.
All right, okay. So now I'd like a motion on the Morgan Stanley Reserve Fund and the Mechanics Bank Reserve Fund, either separate or together.
I'm gonna move there also.
Is there a second?
Rachel.
This one here, reserve.
Yeah, but there are two different.
Right, there's, so I was
I was gonna make one simple motion.
just combining the two, so approval of.
My motion
B
is,
and C.
my motion for the reserve fund, CD allocations is that we follow the recommendations of the investment companies that we got our CDs with.
Okay, which option? We have two options.
Their recommendation, follow their recommendation.
We have 600 in 2 years, or didn't have two options, or I'm wrong?
No, there's
It's two options, no? There's one option.
600.
You want me to clarify?
Yes,
Please.
To clarify what's on the document there and the recommendation for management and the rates, as rate estimates provided by Morgan Stanley, is of the reserve funds that are currently held with Morgan Stanley and the reserve funds currently held by Mechanics Bank. It is recommended we move those from the money market funds they're in right now, earning virtually nothing, to CDs that are FDIC insured, and do it in a laddered CD approach. It's the same approach we've used for many, many years. Pardon me? Is it insured?
no, 2 years.
2 years, we would move, as you see above, 600,000, 300,000 from each of the two institutions. We would ask them to move those to 2-year term CDs, which will get us the highest rate of return you see on this estimate, which would be about 3.15%, maybe a little lower on some, maybe a little higher on other CDs. And also move 300,000, 200 of which is at Morgan Stanley, 100 of which is at Mechanics. And I should stress, we're not moving it from those institutions. We're leaving it with those institutions, but asking them, instead of using a low interest rate money market, move it to CDs. That one would be to 12-month CDs, and we're probably going to see somewhere in the neighborhood of 2.9%.
It's because the name of the banks were this.
I know.
And
So my motion was the whole enchilada as recommended by the companies.
Yeah, that's that.
Didn't move to second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and just for the record, I want to be clear that someone asked, John has researched, these are all FDIC insured.
Yeah.
So when this comes up and we're told it's not, it is. Okay, so we don't do this like this anymore, so no members report. So I'd like to thank everybody. That was fun. I never rode a roller coaster when I was a kid because I was too scared. I think I just rode my first one. So there we go.
We are adjourned.
We are adjourned.
Thank you all.